Ghostly tales, yet mirrors of human life. Hey everyone! Welcome to Encountering Chinese. Ghostly Tales from Zhai. Today, I'm going to tell you two short stories. The first story is titled Small Hairpin. In Changshan County, there was a resident who, whenever he had free time, would often be visited by a short guest, and the guest would engage in endless chatter. However, the resident did not know this guest and often harbored suspicions. One day, the short guest told him, "In 3 to 5 days, I'll be moving. By then, we can be neighbors." After 4 or 5 days, the guest returned, saying, "Now we are from the same village, I can chat with you anytime." The resident asked, "Where did your family move to?" The guest, however, did not provide specific details. He just pointed north with his hand. From then on, the guest almost came to the resident's house every day. Sometimes, the guest would borrow tools from other people in the village. Some were reluctant to lend to him, but soon after, those people's tools would mysteriously disappear. People suspected that the short guest was a fox. At that time, there was an ancient tomb to the north of the village, deeply buried underground. Nobody knew how deep the tomb was, and people speculated that a family of foxes lived there. Therefore, the villagers gathered around the ancient tomb with knives, spears, and wooden sticks. Some people lay on the ground to listen carefully, but after a long time, there was no movement. At night, people heard voices from the hole, as if dozens or hundreds of people were whispering inside. The villagers, holding their breath, waited motionless by the ancient tomb. Suddenly, people saw a large group of small beings, a little over a foot tall, continuously crawling out of the hole. The last ones were so numerous that they couldn't be counted. The villagers shouted and began to beat the small beings. Every strike emitted sparks, and the small beings disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the end, only a small hairpin was left behind, about the size of a walnut shell, seemingly made of gauze and wrapped with gold thread. Brave individuals picked it up and smelled it. The hairpin was both foul and stinky, indescribable in words. The second story is titled Sheng. Sheng and Sheng from Wendeng County have been very close since childhood. They often joked and bantered with each other, fearing that their verbal skills might not be profound enough. Sheng's neighbor was an old woman who had once assisted in delivering Sheng's wife. She casually chatted with Sheng's wife and mentioned that there were 2 warts on Sheng's wife's external genitalia. Hua's wife then told her husband about it. Sheng and his accomplices hatched a plan to play a prank on Sheng. When Sheng approached, Sheng pretended to whisper to his companions, saying, "Do you know that I am very intimate with Sheng's wife?" The others pretended not to believe. Sheng began to fabricate a story in a convincing manner, emphasizing, "If you don't believe me, I can tell you some evidence." There is a pair of warts on both sides of Yan Sheng's wife's external genitalia. Yan Sheng stood outside the window and overheard all of this, so he walked away without entering. When Yan Sheng returned home, he brutally beat his wife. She resisted, and he ruthlessly interrogated her. In the end, unable to endure such abuse, Yan Sheng's wife hung herself. Sheng, upon hearing about Yan Sheng's wife's death, regretted it but dared not reveal the truth to clear Yan Sheng's wife of any wrongdoing. After the death of Yan's wife, her lingering spirit cried throughout the night at the Yan residence, disrupting the peace of the entire family. Shortly thereafter, Yan Sheng also fell seriously ill and died. With Yan's wife's ghost no longer crying, Sheng's wife had a dream where a disheveled woman shouted at her, "I died in great agony. Why can you and your husband still live happily?" Terrified, Hua's wife fell seriously ill and died a few days later. A few days after that, Sheng dreamed of a woman pointing at him, loudly insulting him, and using her palm to slap his mouth. Upon waking, Sheng felt a slight pain in his lips. When he touched them, he discovered his lips were significantly swollen. 3 days later, 2 warts appeared on his lip, and from then on, they could not be cured. Sheng no longer dared to speak and laugh loudly. Sometimes, the pain from his swollen lips became unbearable. At the end of the story, the author says, "The fact that a person can turn into a vengeful ghost after death indicates that she suffered tremendous injustice. It is truly magical and almost like a jest to transfer the disease from her private parts to the lips of the one who harmed her, just like Yan's wife." This reminds me of a true story that happened in our county before. In our county, there was a person surnamed Wang who had a particularly close relationship with a fellow classmate. Once, when this friend's wife went back to her parents' home, Wang learned that her donkey was easily frightened. He hid in the roadside bushes in advance. When the woman arrived riding the donkey, Wang suddenly jumped out. The donkey was startled and jumped up, throwing the friend's wife to the ground. At that time, there was only one servant boy accompanying the woman. Because he was too short, he couldn't help the woman remount the donkey. So Wang volunteered and gallantly helped the friend's wife back onto the donkey. He half supported and half carried her, but the friend's wife did not recognize who he was. Since then, Wang has proudly boasted everywhere, claiming that when the servant boy went to chase the donkey, he had an affair with the friend's wife in the bushes, describing in great detail the underwear, pants, and shoes she was wearing at the time. When Wang's friend heard about this, he walked away in great shame. Soon after, Wang saw his friend holding a knife in one hand and grabbing his wife in the other, angrily rushing towards him through the window. Wang was terrified and quickly climbed over the wall to escape. However, his friend chased him relentlessly. It was only after chasing for 2 or 3 miles that his friend, still furious, returned. However, because of the strenuous running during this incident, Wang's lung lobes opened up, and he developed asthma, a condition that persisted for many years without recovery. Alright. That's all for today's ghostly tales. Small Hairpin and Sheng. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please also encourage everyone to comment and share more. We'll see you in the next episode.